Good afternoon and welcome to the Chatham Board of Selectmen, June 23rd, 2020 meeting. This is remote participation only. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify me. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 23, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Chatham Board of Selectmen is being conducted via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 134208476#, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access, and we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. So welcome post-town meeting, and I just want to take a roll call of the board. Dean Nicastro?
Present.
Corey Metters?
Present.
Jeff Dunkins?
Present.
Okay, and not present tonight is Peter Kokolis, which we'll say our regards to as he recovers from hip replacement surgery. He should be back running very soon. So we hope to see him by the end of the week. So he tells us. So we don't have any meeting minutes to approve tonight. And so we'll go right to public announcements and agenda item requests. And I just want to say congratulations to the class of 2020 as they graduate this evening. Very soon, within half an hour or so. So do any of the board members have any agenda item requests? Corey, I see your hands up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I have a little PSA I want to read on behalf of the Independence Day Parade Committee, so if you bear with me one moment.
Absolutely, go.
A virtual alternative to Chatham's 2020 Independence Day Parade. COVID-19 has disrupted many aspects of our daily life and forced the cancellation of cherished annual events, including Chatham's July 4th parade. Since the traditional parade brings joy and excitement every year to thousands of residents and visitors, the parade committee would like to host a virtual parade in its place. In order to accomplish this, we need your help. Individuals, families, local businesses and organizations, previous float registrants, band participants, anyone are asked to submit fun pictures or short videos up to 30 seconds, incorporating one of the following. This year's selected parade theme, Chatham Celebrates Women, in honor of the 100th anniversary of women's right to vote. Honoring first responders and healthcare workers who have been putting their lives on the line during the COVID-19 pandemic. Honoring teachers who have been working harder than ever to keep students learning and engaged, or overall patriotism. Dress up in costumes, make signs, dance, play music, and or happily shout your delight for participating in this year's virtual July 4th parade. Submission is easy. Send your photos or videos to Chatham Parade, ChathamParade, @gmail.com by June 25th, right around the corner. Chatham's local TV channel 18 will broadcast it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Corey. That sounds like a fun idea. I just want to remind people, if you're not speaking or presenting, to please mute your microphone and your video, so that and then you can turn it back on when you are participating in the discussion. Dean?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just one last call. It's a final reminder that we have a town election this Thursday from 12 noon to 6 o'clock p.m. at the community center. And if you haven't already voted by mail or absentee ballot, everyone should go and vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Any other board members? Okay, I see that Dr. Duncanson has his hand raised. Bob?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to announce to the board and the town manager, as well as the folks at home, we received word late this afternoon that the Army Corps of Engineers dredge Currituck has arrived in Chatham, and she has started dredging the Stage Harbor Entrance Channel. We knew she was coming sometime this week. She ended up being delayed, but she did get here, and she's already started dredging, so she'll be dredging pretty much 24 hours a day for the next 10 days in the channel. So just to caution all the voting public out there to give her a wide berth, because obviously she needs to stay on her course, and hopefully other folks can maneuver around her. But she's going to deepen and widen the channel that Dredge It did for us earlier this year when they broke through the shoal. So if anybody has any questions, they can give us a call at the office. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Good news.
Yeah, it's great news. Any other staff that has any announcements? Anybody from the public, remote participants that would like to have an agenda item request or a public announcement? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move on to new business. And the first one is coronavirus COVID-19 update from, first is Dr. Duncanson.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. So today's numbers update. Right now, worldwide, we have approximately 9.2 million cases, roughly 474,000 deaths on a worldwide basis. The U.S. currently has a little over 2.3 million cases and slightly over 121,000 deaths. Just to kind of put it in perspective, I'm sure everybody remembers when this all started, Italy was the epicenter. Right now, Brazil is the #2 country right behind the U.S. with approximately 1.1 million cases. So the U.S. still has 2 times as many as any other country in the world. In Massachusetts, as of the 4 o'clock this afternoon numbers, we have a little over 107,000 cases, and we have 7,890 deaths. For Barnstable County, we currently have 1,523 cases and 140 deaths, which is up slightly from yesterday. In Chatham, we currently have 20 confirmed COVID-19 cases. And as I've indicated, we're still holding, luckily, at 1 confirmed town resident death. And I would like to say that of the 20 cases that we have in Chatham, most of those, frankly, almost 19 out of the 20 have now resolved, meaning they've recovered or they've passed their quarantine period. So we are no longer tracking them as active cases, because remember, some of those 20 go all the way back to the start of this epidemic or pandemic here on Cape Cod. So the Cape continues to do a very good job of flattening the curve and keeping our caseload down. And I'm sure you, along with all of us, are hopeful that that continues through the summer because we know we've seen an influx of summer residents and visitors coming to the Cape. One other thing, or 2 other things I wanted to touch on. This afternoon at their 4 o'clock meeting, the Board of Health did add fines to their mask order on Main Street, the Fish Pier Overlook, Lighthouse Beach, the Fish Pier Observation Deck, Lighthouse Overlook, and at the transfer station. So the first thing would be a warning, second would be a $100 fine, and third would be a $300 fine. And we'll be updating the printed materials that we have along those areas, as well as our variable message boards, just as quickly as we can tomorrow and the next couple days. So just wanted you to be aware of that. And then the final thing is, I'm sure everybody's aware of, Massachusetts entered step 2 of phase 2 yesterday, meaning that we now have indoor seating at restaurants. There are no capacity limitations per se on restaurants, but they do have to provide that they have at least 6 feet between all their tables. So restaurants aren't limited to 25, 50, 75% of capacity. They just have to ensure that whatever they have, they maintain that 6-foot distance between tables. Also, close contact personal services starting yesterday. So things like masseuses and tattoo parlors and whatnot, those are now approved. Retail stores can open their dressing rooms by appointment only. And the final thing was that office spaces now have increased from 25 to 50%. When the governor made his announcement of step 2 on Saturday, he indicated that he wanted to see at least 2 weeks of the restaurants with their indoor seating before phase 3 would kick in. So while we originally were all under the guidance, if you will, that phase 3 was going to start on June 29th, it now appears that phase 3 will not kick in any earlier than July 6th. So just after the July 4th holiday. And so with that, that's my quick update for today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Bob, I have a question. I just, back to the restaurant pieces. So social distancing and mask wearing inside the restaurant, but no limitation of number of people except for what their capacity for their building is. Is that what I'm understanding? Yes,
that's correct. So they don't have to have like 25% of tables or 50%. It's whatever number of tables they can have in a restaurant, as long as those tables are at least 6 feet apart.
And so does that mean their bars are open as well if they have if they serve alcohol?
No, bars are not open yet. No.
Okay.
Hopefully bars are coming up in phase 3.
All right. Any questions from the rest of the board? Dean.
Thank you, Bob, for the update. I just had a question about the restaurant. So is there a limitation on the number of persons that can be at a table?
Yes, the 6-person per table limit still applies.
Okay, and I assume that once you're seated, you can remove your mask and have your meal?
Yes, so you can take your mask off once you're seated at a table, but you should wear it going in and when you're leaving, and if you have to go to the restrooms.
The only other this afternoon, Massachusetts has the lowest transmission rate of this disease from person to person of any other state in the country. I just saw that late this afternoon. I didn't really read an article on it. I saw a headline about it.
Yes, and I think that's because Massachusetts fairly early on was really pushing the social distancing as well as the mask wearing. And I think that's, that's made a huge difference in Massachusetts compared to some of the other states.
Yeah. I guess I did want to add, I was downtown, I took a walk downtown. I think it was over the weekend, might have been on Saturday and or Friday. And my observation was that the compliance rate on masks was at that point, which was in the early afternoon, was probably about 65%. So I'm happy to hear that the Board of Health has adopted the fines. I'm not looking to be punitive to people. I just think once you've got a little teeth in the order, maybe you can start honoring it better. Thank you.
Yep.
Jeff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Bob, are we going to put anything on that message board as you enter Main Street about fines?
Yes, we are. We're going to update the message boards. Yes.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, any other from the board? Hearing none. Any questions from the remote participants for Dr. Duncanson?
Elaine Gibbs.
Anybody else? Elaine, go ahead.
Yes, I have 2 questions. One for Bob. So in terms of restaurants, you can only have 6 people at a table, but they can be 6 unrelated people. But if you have a family of 8, you can't be sitting at the same table. Am I understanding that contradiction?
Yeah, unfortunately, that contradiction is accurate. We actually asked the state last week because I'd gotten an inquiry from a visitor to Chatham who was planning a trip for next week and has a family of 7. And she had contacted a couple of restaurants and they said, well, we can't seat you all at one table. You'd have to have multiple tables. So we did. We asked that specific question to the state. Was there any leeway to allow larger groups if they were the same family? In the state during our weekly DPH conference call last Friday, it was very clear that the 6 is the 6. So unfortunately, if you have a family of 8, they would have to be seated at multiple tables.
Okay, that's what I thought, which makes absolutely no sense. The other question I had was in terms of the restrooms at Harding's Beach. I have heard from people that they're not opening there until Friday. But people are at the beach. It was very crowded, and they are going to the bathroom behind the bathrooms. So can we open those up ahead of time? Because that it's counterintuitive not to open up bathrooms at this point when we're crowded. People still have to, you know, if they're at the beach, that's going to be an issue. I don't know whose decision it is. It should be the Board of Health. So I don't think it should be Parks and Rec. If the Board of Health thinks that's a concern, I hope we could open
Director
it up.
Temple has his hand up, so maybe he can answer that for us. Tom?
Yeah, good evening. There was issues out there today. We've sent the cleaning crews out ahead of time because they normally open the 26th of June every year, and so we wanted to make sure we were ahead of schedule. But apparently there was some issues with the electric on the building, so they were supposed to take care of it today. Hopefully they did. We had the crews going in at 3:30 this afternoon, cleaning out the restrooms. We also have the cleaning company that's coming in and doing a fogging of the disinfecting of that building on Thursday. So if we had the power back, if the board, you know, wants us to open earlier than the 26th, if we get everything back, I have no problem if that's the wish of the board.
Yeah, just so everybody understands, that restroom generally does not open until the beach is open. That's historically been the practice under Park and Rec, because generally, you know, usage earlier in the season is fairly low. So that's why they were targeted to open this Friday.
Are we looking at a busy couple of days, these next couple of days, weather-wise? And, you know, I know the weekend was crazy. I mean, there was a lot of people around on the water, and it was a gorgeous weekend. So, but if this is something that can be done, is anybody open to that? Okay, Tom, did you have you still have your hand up? But if you don't,
we did have the septic system pumped today, as well as the water was turned on. That's a private well at that facility. So if, you know, I can double check to make sure everything's all set as far as the power goes first thing in the morning, and I can get back to you to let you know what the status is, and whatever you decide to vote on tonight is fine.
Yeah, if I could just say, I think that you got to make a decision. Either the beach is closed or the beach is open with a bathroom. I don't think you can open a beach and not have bathrooms, particularly at Harding's. There's no other place to go except Dunkin' Donuts. So I don't think that that's an appropriate call, and I think we got to open it up as soon as possible.
I can coordinate with Tom, and if the facility is ready to open up sooner than the 26th, we'll get it open sooner.
There you go.
Jeff, you
Good. No, that's good. That's okay. The right decision. It looks like it's gonna be nice. Looks like it's going to be nice tomorrow, and then Wednesday and Thursday get a little iffy. But I agree. If the beach is going to be open, the bathroom should be open.
Corey, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. No, I am all in favor of trying to get restrooms open up earlier, beaches, downtown, anywhere. I know this is a different summer with the pandemic and the COVID-19. But I do want to think, you know, in general, moving forward, even if we can get them open a little bit earlier. I've heard the stories about the beaches. Downtown itself has been a little bit issue. You know, I bite my tongue for even saying this out loud, but I've had the displeasure of twice having people using the restroom behind my building downtown. So it is, it's happening. We've hearing about it, and I've talked to other merchants around town. We hear stories of it. So moving forward, if we could find a way to get them open a little bit earlier, I do think it would be in the best interest of everybody. So that's just my thoughts. Thanks.
Jill, is that possible with staff resources and whatnot, you know, as far as cleaning and scheduling and all that? I get, maybe that's a Tom question too, but.
It can be. It's the bathrooms were open on June 15th downtown. The one behind Town Hall never closed. The beaches never closed technically. So again, we do have some staffing limitations. And again, as you know, people are here much earlier than they normally are. So I mean, this is what we do. So I'm sure we can make it earlier. Next year, we had to get a contract cleaner in as well because of the added number of cleaning. So all of this put into play that, from what I'm hearing from Tom, is that he can work to get those the beach bathrooms open as soon as possible.
Okay, does anybody want to make a motion to that effect so that we can move this forward?
Yeah,
I don't
so
think
moved.
it's a motion.
Yeah, yes.
It's not on the agenda,
The
so
beach bathrooms.
Oh, it's not on the agenda, so we cannot
well,
address it.
this is something that I can direct staff. And
So,
Okay,
yeah, we
that's
can direct the staff to do it.
All right, that's fine.
What about
You know,
Oyster
if
Pond,
it's
Tom? I do have a question. What about Oyster
Okay.
Pond? Is that open? Is Oyster Pond open?
We're painting up the buoys and putting those in the water. I believe that was happening today. I'm not positive that everything got completed. The bathrooms are all set to go on that as well. All the bathrooms were ready on the 15th, as Jill indicated, with the exception of Harding. We had those cleaned today, so they're even all set to go. So, you know, we should be fine. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Jill, but I believe that Dan had met with all the lifeguards today. And if that's a case where he's able to get the lifeguards in at Harding a little earlier, and maybe he can make some phone calls and have that, so we have a safe beach as well if we're opening the restrooms.
Good.
yes, he did the orientation today for the lifeguards. Yes.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Sounds good.
All right. Any other questions for Dr. Duncanson? Thank you, Bob, and we'll turn to Town Manager Goldsmith for her update. Hi, Jill.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chairman. So the first thing that we're working on is workplace safety sessions with our employees. So we're going to have a Zoom call with all town employees except police and fire who are invited, but the training is for the other town offices, and that will be led by our fire chief. And we have a couple of videos, and we'll talk about social distancing and what employees can expect when some of them come back to work. Some of them have been here all along. So that's important. And working also with the police chief on de-escalation hints and some training opportunities for people when they do come to our town offices, when they do open, being able to manage that. So we have some delays with our workplace modifications, and I don't have a date for opening to the public. Likely when we do open to the public, it will be by appointment only, and so we'll work on that. But I'm not really sure the public will see much of a difference because we've had town offices either staffed remotely or in the office, and we have drop boxes. And we made it through this week with a lot of the absentee and early voting happening, not coming in, but the mail has been very heavy. So I think that we'll still provide that same level of service, and we'll try to get that open when it's safe and feasible for all of us. And then the other thing I just wanted to touch on, because it took a lot of time and it is still part of our COVID-19, is our annual town meeting that we had yesterday. And it was truly amazing, from a concept to cleanup. It basically touched every department. There were staff from every department that helped with this, including our regional school district staff and our CERT volunteers. And I know the board's well aware of that, but I just wanted to note that Channel 18 did a phenomenal job, as they always do, and that we had over 200 attendees. So I don't have a final count, so we definitely made our quorum of 100. And I think it was 40 minutes, and probably the first 10 minutes was just talking about the procedures. So it was 99% of the people wore their masks. A couple of people switched them out because, as you know, it was pretty warm at the very beginning, and it certainly cooled off. So I just want to say it was a great success, and thank you to the board for going with the flow on some changes that we did at this annual town meeting. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Jill. Yes, I sent an email to you this morning commending the staff and you for such an excellent job, and it was a streamlined process, which was wonderful to experience, historic too. Does anybody have any questions for Jill? Jeff, your hand's up. I'm wondering if you had a comment or.
You know, I know there's a agenda item on the agenda for about the annual town meeting follow-up, but I thought the town did a great job, and kudos to Jill and her team. And it was apparent that it did take pretty much the entire staff or members of almost every department in the town. So it was very well done, very well thought out, very efficient, and I commend everybody that was involved. And great job, Jill, and great job to your team. And thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Dean, you want to make a comment?
Yeah, it's just the same comment, and I mentioned it to Jill as I was leaving last night, that I thought everyone did a wonderful job in preparing for this, and I thank the public too that were in attendance for not engaging in a lot of tangential discussion. And the moderator worked very closely with us and with the town manager and Terry Whalen and so forth. And I think it was a really well done enterprise. Thank you.
Thanks, Dean. Any other comments from the board?
Yep.
Corey?
Job well done.
Okay.
Very well done. Very happy.
Okay. Any questions for the town manager from the remote participants? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Jill. That was a great. So I just wanted to give you an update on some of the work that's being done from the Cape Cod Regional Task Force and from the group that Jill and I have been meeting with, the Cape Selectmen and Town Meetings Elbow Up group. For the Elbow Up group, it's been a lot of sharing of concepts and programs and resource ideas amongst the towns. One thing that I wanted to note was that there's the towns are noting an uptick in voter registration and early voting in some of the towns, even when there's an uncontested race. So that's a pretty interesting a little bit of stat there. Also, one of the things that we've pledged to do moving forward is to start a discussion on the future. We've got an uncertainty coming up this fall and what to expect. We don't have, I don't think I'm uncertain whether this pandemic will have abated in any way, or whether it will get worse, or what's going to happen to our communities. So we're going to be starting discussions collectively on that from a regional sort of aspect, which I think is really good. Provincetown's already started some of this work already with doing surveys and sort of putting together certain models. So basically, aside from, I think it would be a good for us to have an agenda item where we talk about expectations in response to need and how we get there and formulate our decisions in the fall. Also prioritizing some of our projects and programs too. I think it would be a little mini sub goal and objective reboot of some sort, whether we do it in a regular town meeting or an aside. Selectmen's meeting or an aside working group. The other thing is the Regional Reopening Task Force has been meeting still twice a week, and now they have a county's website, reopeningcapecod.org, and it's resources specific to Cape Cod, to the Cape, for residents and visitors, towns, businesses, and it has education and outreach. It also includes some situational reports and a place. This is kind of interesting, a place that you can submit as from any aspect of being part of the Cape, comments to the task force, to the governor's office, to the local board of health, and to the attorney general's COVID-19 hotline. So they're formulating the resources, and I think it's a pretty helpful site to be able to access and utilize as a visitor or a resident. So that's all I have about that. So if anybody has any questions for me, fine. Okay. Seeing none, any questions from the remote participants? Oh, Jeff, go ahead. Jeff?
Yeah, no, Shireen, I'm getting a lot of questions at work and here in town about schools, especially from parents, mothers and fathers who are trying to plan their work schedules. Those that have been working remotely are now getting called back in, and when they have two spouses at home, it's okay, but everybody's really worried about this fall. And I am getting a lot of questions, and I haven't heard. I hope the reopening task force in some measure includes the schools. I'm sure they're doing their own planning, but I don't really know where they are with respect to their thoughts, where the Montgomery district is with respect to their thoughts. But I know it's very high in everybody's mind, so I just want to put a plug in for that.
Okay, so there is a Childcare Subcommittee that's working on some of the phase opening stuff, and that's been fraught with some bit of frustration about a little bit about some of the regulations being too onerous on the small businesses. What I understand is the Department of Education is calling the shots on the educational program opening for all of the state, and so we'll be hearing from them from that response. But yeah, it is something that needs to be dealt with very quickly.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, I'm concerned because this virus hangs around and it's continuing to hang around and it's going to be an issue. It's still an issue and will be an issue until we figure it out.
Right, of course. Okay, any other
Yeah.
questions from the board?
Yeah.
Any questions from the remote participants? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to shellfish, seasonal shellfish area closure, Oyster Pond as of July 1st, 2020. Dr. Duncanson is making the presentation instead of the Shellfish Constable tonight. Dr. Duncanson?
Yeah, good evening. Robert Duncanson, Director of Health and Natural Resources again. This is one of our standard seasonal closures. Every year we close Oyster Pond down when the water temperatures get high. We keep it closed for the summer and early fall, and then usually in December when water temperatures drop down and the bacteria levels drop as well, we reopen it for the winter and spring for shellfish. So this is a standard seasonal closure. You've seen this many years before. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Dean will be reading the public notice or rules and regulations soon. Is there any questions or a motion? This is a usual thing that we do every year. So I'll.
I move to approve the closure.
Okay, do I have a second? I think Jeff seconded it.
Second.
Okay, is there any further discussion from the board? Are there any questions from the remote participants?
Elaine Gibbs.
Anybody else? Hearing none. Okay, Elaine?
This may be off track, but I could have mentioned it earlier on during public comment for an agenda item, but I don't think it needs it. But I just want Bob to be aware that seals have been in Oyster Pond pretty close to shore within the last week. I know it has nothing to do with the shellfish.
Yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with this agenda item.
But I know how to get it out there to people to,
Okay.
you know, without writing a memo or a letter to the editor, that you should just be aware, because we live here, you know, I look out over it, people have told me. So you should just be aware that there are seals, which is pretty unusual this time of year to be in Oyster Pond, just to put it on the agenda of things to watch out for the lifeguards.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments on the motion from the public? Okay, hearing none, we'll take a roll. Do we want to read the rules and regulations first, Dean,
Yeah.
please?
Oh.
Thank you.
Town of Chatham, Shellfish Rules and Regulations, June 23rd, 2020. Closed, effective July 1, 2020. The Oyster Pond, east of a line from Kelly Landing to Long Point, is closed to the taking of shellfish by permit holders until further notice. Board of Selectmen.
Thank you, Dean. We'll take a roll vote on this matter. First is Selectman Dunkins,
Aye.
Selectman Metters,
Aye.
Selectman Nicastro,
Aye.
and the chair says aye with, so that's 4 with 1 absent. Okay, thank you on that matter. Moving on, we're discussing considering extending 2019 beach parking and transfer station sticker expirations to July 31st, 2020. I have Dr. Duncanson making a presentation on this. Bob?
Yeah, good afternoon again. As the board indicated, or the chairman indicated earlier, we've seen a major surge in mail-in applications, because basically that was the only option we gave folks to get their beach and transfer station stickers this year. And as you can well imagine, for the members of the public who are used to walking into the permit department and maybe 5 or 10 minutes later walking out with their sticker, having to mail it in has been a new trial for them, because they forget to take into account that it may take 5 or 6 days for that letter to get here, generally around 48 hours for us to turn it around, and then 5 or 6 days to mail it back. So everybody waits till the last minute thinking they're just going to walk in and go ahead and get that sticker. So right now we are behind schedule. We've brought additional staff in to try to work through that. We've pulled folks from other departments who maybe are not working completely in their own offices because of COVID. But we're still not going to meet a deadline to try to get all the stickers back out to folks by June 30th. And so we felt the easiest way to be fair to people was to just extend the current sticker deadline for 1 additional month. And it basically doesn't do anything fiscally because 90% of these people have already mailed their applications and their check-in. It's just because it takes that much longer to get it through the mail and get it back to them. We're not going to be able to get them all out to them by that June 30th date. And so my recommendation to you was simply to extend the beach and transfer station stickers for 2019-2020 for one additional month until July 31st. That gives us plenty of time to get the stickers out to people. People won't be faced with, when the beach is open on the 26th, and if they want to go to the transfer station on July 1st, they wouldn't be faced with, they can't do it because their current stickers would be valid for another month. If they've already gotten their new sticker, they're okay anyway. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
Right. Any questions for Dr. Bob from the board? It seems pretty clear cut to me that this is yes, Jeff?
I move that we make the expiration date for 2019 and 2020 beach and transfer station stickers be extended till July 31st, 2020.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Any questions from the remote or discussion from the remote participants? All right, hearing none, I'll take a roll. Selectman Dykens?
Aye.
Selectman Nicastro?
Aye.
Selectman Metters?
Aye.
And I say aye. And we have one absent. Okay, so moved.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Yeah, Corey, you had something you wanted to say? You're muted. You'll have to unmute yourself. There you go.
Back.
Yes.
There I am. So sometimes sitting here, technology has its own little quirk. I got people texting. I just got a quick question. What about shellfish permits?
Is there any issue with those happening, Bob? Or is there any problem with those?
No. As you know, we extended the commercial shellfish permits. The board did that several months ago for us. Recreational shellfish permits actually expired back on May 31st. So we have been advising Renee Gagne, Shellfish Constable, and her staff have been advising people that if their shellfish permit had expired already, and they'd already sent in for their new one, but they hadn't received it back yet, they're basically giving them an unofficial grace period, if you will. And so they've been taking care of that already.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? All right, we'll move on. Okay, annual town meeting follow-up. I'm assuming this is Jill, or any discussion from the board. Jill?
Yeah, we typically have this in case there's any follow-up action.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, just to discuss what happens. I think that we probably should start thinking about the September special town meeting. We did update our calendars, and it is a Jewish holiday on that Saturday, so we might want to consider another date. But until then, I think what we'll do as staff is we'll repopulate the scorecard that we use for the items that were postponed or even previously removed, so the board can keep track of where we were with that. And I think we had a lot fleshed out because that was, I think, the March 23rd warrant. And then after that, we closed it, opened it, and made a reduced warrant. So that's about it just for process. And if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Dean, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, along the same lines. I think at some point in the coming months, we should start getting at some of these articles that were postponed indefinitely, which means they no longer have any legal viability. So we have to put them on the warrant as we've committed ourselves to doing. And I wasn't aware of the Jewish holiday, but we should, I think, come up with a different date in accordance with that. So there were a number of articles in addition to the petition articles that were either, as Joe mentioned, not placed on the warrant, the revised warrant, but we withheld them with the idea that we would put them on for September. So we just need to start working on that process going forward over the summer. And I guess at some point in the coming week or two, we're going to be discussing the summer schedule.
Yes, we'll probably be discussing that next week.
Okay.
or early July.
Yeah, I don't have any substantive comment other than, since it says meeting follow-up, I was particularly pleased with the approval of the financial articles last night. Overwhelmingly approved the budget, the dredging article, the library rule. The trustees of the library will be very pleased, I'm sure, and the transfer station piece. I know we have a ballot question on Friday's election for the transfer station borrowing. But I think it shows that the town of Chatham, unlike or in comparison or in contrast to some sister towns, not just on the Cape but elsewhere, is very financially well situated to weather ourselves through this crisis. You know, it's not going to be easy. And I think we saw the advantage of the free cash account that we have. I know there was a motion to an amendment. I guess it was a motion. I'm sorry. I think it was an amendment to an article last night to adjust that. I'm happy that the voters voted the way they did because I think it confirms the financial stability that the town has. So that I just wanted to make that observation.
Thank you, Dean. That was a good recap. Anybody else have any comments?
No, that was a good recap. Agree with everything.
Yeah, I thought that was excellent. Okay. Yeah, so Jill, and we will be obviously taking the agenda forward and looking at town meeting, special town meeting. Any remarks or questions from the remote participants?
Elaine Gibbs?
Anybody else? Elaine, go ahead.
I just had a question. I may have misunderstood Dean, but the ballot vote is on Thursday, not Friday, correct?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Thank you, Elaine, for correcting me. I've made that mistake several times this week with others, but yes, the election is Thursday. Don't show up Friday or it's too late.
All right. Thank you very much.
And we might add that the election time is 12 to 6, correct? Voting time? Okay, at the community center. All right. Any other comments? None. Thank you, Jill. We'll move forward with that. Jill and I will be talking this week a little bit about it. We'll get some sort of idea of what's going on. All right.
Yeah, and just to assure the public too, and I didn't have to make any comments last night, but we're going to monitor the budget on a monthly or more frequent basis. So if there's any adjustments that need to be done or presented, we can certainly do that. And again, we're always very conservative with our COVID financial plan, and we'll continue on that route. The only other thing to think about too is I'm not sure the world's going to change that much for September. So when it comes to having an indoor or outdoor special town meeting, I think that's something we're going to have to talk about in the weeks ahead.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you, Jill. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item E, which is Traffic Safety Committee recommendations. We met a while back with citizens' concern for Old Comers Road and Training Field, and we sent this over to the Traffic Study Safety Committee for recommendations back to us, and they have done so. And I believe Director Temple, are you making this presentation? Or is this coming before us in another manner?
I believe, well, Andrew, I think he saw me last night. He said he couldn't make it tonight, so I certainly have no problem.
Okay.
I'm actually online.
Oh, good.
Hi, Andrew. Would you like?
Sorry about that.
Okay. All right.
It's Lieutenant Goddard.
Yeah, good.
Lieutenant Goddard.
Chatham Police.
Okay, thank you.
I'm the staff liaison to the Traffic Safety Committee. I'm not able to appear by video, but I am calling in.
Okay.
So the Traffic Safety Committee met with the group that had done the presentation to the Board of Selectmen previously. The couple of main points that they were requesting action on were speeding issues along the length of Old Comers Road and the four-way intersection where the four-way stop signs are. The Traffic Safety Committee did some research and considered a lot of different suggestions and ideas and boiled it down to the three recommendations that we've presented here. The first of which would be to address the issue of vehicles failing to stop at the four-way stop sign at the intersection with Old Comers Road and Training Field. Attached to the recommendation, I'd include some statistics from our system indicating the number of accidents over the last 5 years that were major accidents. By that, I mean over $1,000 worth of damage to the vehicle or personal injury. So in a response to that, the general consensus was that those accidents were caused by people failing to stop for the stop sign. And the most common reasoning given was, I didn't see it. So we discussed different options to increase visibility. And the one that the board has settled on is to make a recommendation for the installation of 4 of the LED illuminated stop signs, similar to the ones you see in Harwich at the intersection with Pleasant Bay Road and Route 39. A couple of different options on those would be to either have them powered via a landline or powered via solar. That would be those options would be something that would be left to you or to the DPW to determine, because there's a wide range in expenses there. But the board felt that this would increase visibility and recognition that it is a 4-way intersection, it is a stop sign, and would have a positive effect on reducing accidents or near-miss accidents at that intersection. The second request from the Traffic Safety Committee would be for the purchase and installation of 2 of the permanently mounted speed radar display signs, similar to what you're seeing popping up in a lot of other towns. One would be facing westbound, and it would be located somewhere just after the intersection with Old Queen Anne Road. And that would serve as an advisory to vehicles headed eastbound on Old Comers that the speed limit has changed as it does just prior to the Old Queen Anne intersection from 40 miles an hour to 30. And then locate another one facing eastbound so that cars coming off of Orleans Road and turning onto Old Comers would also receive that advisory somewhere in the area past the MCI properties, where the speed limit then drops again from a rural zone to a thickly settled, so from 40 to 30. A couple of different options on those. They range anywhere from $2,500 on up. Again, the Traffic Safety Committee would defer to the Board of Selectmen and to the DPW so far as the individual units that are purchased. A lot of different options on those, depending on whether you want to get some sort of data recording for statistical purposes, or if you just want it strictly as a speed display. And then the third recommendation, there's a feeling amongst the residents that approach the Traffic Safety Committee that some of the speeding issues with those vehicles are they're attempting to continue on Old Queen Anne and they're missing the intersection. So they continue eastbound on Old Comers Road to get to the next intersection to turn or to turn around and return. So they felt, and we felt as well, that just simply relocating the Old Queen Anne, Old Comers Road sign, the actual street sign, from the the east side of the intersection to the west side of the intersection would serve to alleviate some of that. So they've made that recommendation as well.
Thank you very much. So we did get a note from Alex about funding challenges that could go on with this project. Not to say that this is not a project I think we should, I really truly believe we should address this and take care of it. But it looks like we might have to deal with funding the project. It appears through in the future. Jill, can you give me a little background on that?
Sure. So in her email response to me, we're looking at about $30,000 to implement the recommendations, and that there's no budget line item for that. She suggested that when we have our fall town meeting, if the board is amenable to it or you want to fund it, we can certainly prepare an article and have it funded. The funding source would be from free cash. So that's in your packet, but just towards the end of it.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to note, we also got a couple of letters from some of the participants that participated in the in working on this as a committee member. But there was one from a resident that had some concern to the LED lights at the stop sign, noting that they're good, but they can be a little obnoxious. So it is a residential area, and I just didn't know we wanted to discuss any of this. Jeff, your hand is up, and then Corey.
I just had a question on whether signage is if you're traveling east from the transfer station towards Ryder Cove Boatyard, and you follow Old Cummers. When you come to that, you're going down to Old Cummers. When you come to that four-way intersection, they're going to move the sign from the right-hand side of Old Queen Anne to the left-hand side of Old Queen Anne. Again, I'm going east on Old Queen Anne, approaching that intersection. Is that right, Lieutenant?
I can speak on that. If you came out of Sam Ryder Road and took a right and headed east, you'd pass Riverview Drive, and then Old Queen Anne Road takes that 90-degree turn to the right to continue on Old Queen Anne. It would be that sign at that intersection that they would relocate, moving it from the east side to the west side, so that vehicles coming towards Riders Cove that intend to take a right turn on Old Queen Anne and continue on Old Queen Anne would have more advance notice that the road is in fact turning right and it's not continuing straight. That was the thought process around the relocation of that sign.
Yeah, no, I like it. I'd like the sign should say something like Queen Anne Road, take a right, or Queen Anne Road or something, to make it really apparent that, because it's odd that Queen Anne takes out right and Old Cummers picks up there. It's odd, But I'm in favor of doing the stop signs, whatever they think is safe, and using free cash. I'm in favor of that approach. Thank you.
Okay. Corey, you had comments?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm very supportive. I know this is an area of great concern for a lot of people for safety perspectives. 30,000 is a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money when you think about the safety component to it. If there's any way to get creative and get some of this done earlier, I would support that. If we have to wait till September, then that's just what it is. And also, for what it's worth, when you talk about the data display, the speed display, if depending on what the budget is, I would think anything that would collect data would be beneficial in the long run. So I would put my 2 cents worth into looking at that type of equipment to get more bang for our buck. If we moving forward, but I support this. I think I'd like to, I would be supportive of getting some of it done earlier, but all in all, I'm in favor of this.
Thank you, Corey. Lieutenant Goddard, I know some of the discussion in the beginning of the, that we had heard early on was that there may have been some road painting to sort of demarc Old Queen Anne from Old Cummers Road. I don't recall. Did that ever have any merit during discussions at all?
There were a variety of different discussions regarding different painting. Most of that was directed towards deceleration lines and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
There was some discussion of painting arrows on Old Queen Anne just prior to that intersection. That was not part of the recommendation. The group decided to stick with these three recommendations and go from there.
Okay, thank you. Dean, you had a question?
Thank you. I do have a question. I just wanted to make a comment first. I would certainly favor solar-powered signs, as was suggested earlier by Lieutenant Goddard, as a possibility. And I like Jeff's idea on the signage on that addresses the turn onto the continuation of Old Queen Anne Road. In addition to moving that street sign, which is the name of the street, if you could have underneath it as another sign that with an arrow, to direct people who are on Queen Anne Road and want to stay on Queen Anne Road to take that right turn. I think that would be good. Lieutenant, I thank you for the report. I just really had one question for you. I'm not sure I fully understood the location of the radar speed display signs. Are they both going to be on the eastbound side of the road?
The recommendation was for one to be facing the eastbound traffic, the other to be facing the westbound traffic.
Okay.
And the discussion was to get the highest impact would be to catch the vehicles just as they're entering the speed zone, to advise them that, one, the speed zone has changed and what their speed is at that time, to encourage them to slow down to the lower speed limit. So that location down by the pond just after the MCI property, and then the other one just east of the Old Queen Anne intersection as they're proceeding eastbound on Old Cummers.
Okay. And my final comment really addresses the financial issue I mean, 30,000 does seem like a lot of money. I would anticipate that Tom and Jill, working with Lieutenant Goddard, would explore the cost of these items carefully so that we can come up with the most cost-effective products while maintaining our pursuit of the safety issue. And I do agree with what has been said, that this is probably going to have to be done at the September town meeting. But if there is any way, as Corey suggested, creatively to get a jump on it, I would be very supportive of that. But I'm supportive of the proposals. Thank you.
Tom, you had your hand up. Tom.
Yes, thank you. I did receive quotes today, again, they were all solar powered material that we got quotes from. They're the same people, Bell Traffic, who is on the state bid list, but also installed the Route 137 lights for the bike trail. And the prices actually came in better now than they did when I got the last quote. So, which is good. They came in right around 25,000. Their price doesn't include police detail, design layout, the roadway guide signs that might be needed, as well as roadway markings, but that's all stuff we can do internally with our operating budget, so that shouldn't affect any of that. So I think that money that Alex had mentioned should cover everything that we need, and these were all solar powered based things. I will have to check in based on what Corey said about wanting any type of material that does collect data. I'll find out if they do, if they don't, and if there's some way we can upgrade to get that information. I think it's important as well. So,
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I think I'll offer a motion. I know we don't have the financial piece in place here. But I move that the Board of Selectmen approve in concept the recommendations of the Traffic Safety Committee as presented on tonight's agenda and by Lieutenant Goddard.
Thank you, Dean. Do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
Okay. Any further discussion from the board on this matter? Okay. I see that there's a hand up from the remote participants. Joan Craig. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to this matter? Okay. Joan?
Hi. Yes.
Hi.
My name is Joan Craig. You can hear me all right?
Can you turn up your volume just a tad?
Sure. Hold on. Thank you. A member of the Traffic Safety Committee, very impressed with the work that Tom and Andy have done along with the committee. And very thankful to all of you for moving forward with this. We have all personally had our own horror stories at the intersections, along with listening to other individuals who have come before our committee. I really would love to see if there is any way that some funding could happen now versus in September. But I would also hope that if it does go through in September, that it can be put on a ASAP list because of the dangers. A number of members of our committee who live in that area have talked about individuals who not only don't see the intersection, or in the early morning hours when the larger trucks are going through, by the time they see it and realize it, they've already gone halfway through the intersection before they get to stop. So as I said, we've all witnessed and been a part of almost being hit, as have pedestrians. So I think for the safety of all and for the clarity of that, it's an excellent pursuit. So I thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Does anybody else have any questions or comments from the? Okay, hearing none, I'll take a roll on the vote. Selectman DeCastro.
Aye.
Selectman Metters.
Aye.
Selectman Dykens.
Aye.
And the chair says aye, and we have one absence. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you, Lieutenant Goddard, Director Temple, and the Traffic Study Committee. All right. Our last item for tonight is a Board of Selectmen reappointments to boards, commissions, and committees, and we have quite a few. Last time, Dean, we did a sort of a consent calendar I was wondering if we could still do it that way again, or if there's some that we need to take out to address separately.
Well, Madam Chair, since I think you turned to me because I read the consent.
You did. You suggested it last time.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it again. I just think there are two here. The Board of Health, there are three incumbent applicants. The language in the three votes is for the full membership, but Dr. Alan Ward, when he was interviewed, expressly requested that he continue on as an alternate. So the vote on that one would be modified, and I could read that. The other one, the only other, there are contested positions for the Council on Aging Board and the Summer Residence Committee. We have,
I think that's enough.
Actually,
I think that's good, Dean.
That's good.
actually, the Summer Residence, well, we have 4 incumbents and 1 new applicant. I don't think in the interview with the new applicant, Mr. Myers, whether we asked him if he was applying for the associate position or not, but we could take that one separately. So I'm happy to read the, exclude those, extract those from the consent calendar, and if you'd like, I'll offer a motion on the others.
I would certainly appreciate it.
Okay, so I move we appoint make the following appointments to the various boards and committees as follows. The Community Housing Partnership, which has 3 vacancies for terms expiring June 30th, 2023. I move to appoint Katie Fitz-Nickerson, Lindsay O'Connell, and Shirley Smith, all incumbents, to the Community Housing Partnership until June 30th, 2023, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed. Then the Conservation Commission, we have 2 vacancies for terms expiring June 30th, 2020, and 3 for associate terms to June 30th, 2021. We have 1 incumbent, Janet Williams, who applied for reappointment. I move to appoint Janet Williams to the Conservation Commission until June 30th, 2023, unless sooner successor is appointed. The Independence Day Parade Committee, we have 3 vacancies for terms to June 30th, 2023, 1 vacancy for a term ending June 30th, 2022, and 1 vacancy for a term ending June 30th, 2021. We have 3 incumbents, Justin Bohannon, Niall Straper, Jackie Majira. I move to appoint those 3 individuals to the Independence Day Parade Committee until June 30th, 2023, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed. And on the Planning Board, we have 2 vacancies for terms expiring June 30th, 2023, and 1 vacancy for a term expiring June 30th, 2021. I should have probably extracted this, but I'll read it correctly. I move to appoint Art Sprue, who's an incumbent, and Bob Dupas, who's an incumbent, to the Planning Board until June 30th, 2023, unless sooner revoked or successor is appointed. I move to appoint John Roger Griffin to the Planning Board until June 30th, 2021, unless sooner revoked or successor is appointed. He's a new applicant, so I'm suggesting that he would be moved for the shorter term. And those are that's the
Okay.
The consent calendar.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dean. Is there a second to the consent calendar?
Second.
Second.
Okay, we'll take a roll call vote. Selectman Dykens.
Aye.
Selectman Metters.
Aye.
Selectman DeCastro.
Aye.
And the chair says aye. So, and 1 absent, 4-0-1. All right, so let's go back to the Board of Health. Any motions? Anybody want to start off?
Madam Chair,
Yep.
I move to appoint Dr. Noble Hanson and Edward Sheehan, who are incumbents, to the Board of Health until June 30th, 2023, unless sooner revoked or successor is appointed. And I move to appoint Dr. Alan Ward, who is an incumbent alternate, to the Board of Health as an alternate until June 30th, 2021, unless sooner revoked or successor is appointed.
Second.
Okay, we'll take a roll. Dean?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Okay, so moved. All right, we'll move over to the Council on Aging. Do we have a motion to appoint? Does anybody want to make a motion to appoint one of the members?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I move to appoint Barbara Siegel, who's the incumbent chair, to the Council on Aging Board of Directors until June 30th, 2023, unless sooner revoked or as a successor is appointed. I note that we have 2 vacancies. We had three applicants.
We do, and I failed to mention who they are. Carol DeChristopher, incumbent, interviewed June 19th, 2020. Barbara Siegel, incumbent, interviewed June 19th, 2020. And Fred Crimmins, interviewed June 19th, 2020. And we have two spaces to appoint. So we have Barbara Siegel as has been recommended for appointment. Do we have any other recommendations for appointment? Jeff?
I'm suggesting the positions one by one.
You want? Okay. All right, we'll take the positions one by one. So do we have a second on Barbara Siegel?
If it's agreeable to the rest of the board.
Are you guys all right with the individual? Or do you want?
Yes.
Okay.
So I've nominated Barbara Siegel for the first.
Okay. Do we have a second on that?
I will second Barbara.
Okay. We'll take a vote. Corey?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Do we have a second motion for appointment? Jeff?
Madam Chair, I move to appoint Carol DeChristopher to the Council on Aging Board of Directors until June 30th, 2023, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Do we have any other motion to appoint? Okay. Hearing none, then we will take a roll. Dean?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
And chair says aye. I want to thank all the interviewees for
Yes.
Yes. Okay. The next is we did the planning board, summer residence advisory committee. May I get a recommendation to appoint? Oh, hold on. Let me just explain who they are. I'm rushing through this. Wonder why. Summer Residence Advisory Committee, there's 4 vacancies for terms expiring June 30th, 2023, 1 vacancy for associate term to June 30th, 2021. We have Jamie Meehan, who is an incumbent, interviewed on June 18th, 2020. Well, they're all interviewed on June 18th, 2020. Phil Richardson, an incumbent, Joel Rotner, incumbent, Colette Taylor, an incumbent, and a new interviewee applicant, George Myers. Okay, I'll accept a motion for appointment. Dean?
Madam Chair, I'll make a consolidated motion if that's okay.
You may.
For the full 4 incumbents, Jamie Meehan, Phil Richardson, Joel Rotner, Colette Taylor. I move to appoint those 4 to the Summer Residence Advisory Committee until June 30th, 2023, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
Thank you, Dean. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we'll take a vote. Corey?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. All right.
Madam Chair.
Jeff has his hand up. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I move to appoint George Myers to the Summer Residence Advisory Committee as an associate until June 30th, 2021, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we'll take a vote. Dean?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Okay, great. Thank everyone for their interviews and for their willingness to serve again on these committees. That concludes our business tonight, gentlemen. So maybe we get a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, if I might, motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All right. Everybody's got smiles on their face. They're going to have a regular hour dinner tonight.
Yep, closer than I was.
Yeah. Corey?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye, let the record show 7:10. Thank you very much.
Right. And the chair says aye. Have a good evening, and we'll see you next week. Or we'll see you Friday for our reorganization. Hopefully we'll see you Friday for reorganization. Okay.
Take care.
Thank you. Have a good evening.